Hi, so this is Ed, um, and I wanted to make a video confessing my own realization of racial biases that I have over the years. Before I say why I want to do this, I want to just say the hesitation that I'm feeling to even want to share something like this. This is a hard thing to talk about, especially in the times that we're in, and I don't want this to be about me, but I've been feeling convicted to talk about this. I think there's several aspects of the problem we're talking about: race and justice. So many important things that are being said, but I think there's some underlying challenges or hurdles that might not necessarily be being ignored, but might need to be brought to light. And this is just one thing that has been hitting me recently, and I've been sitting on this and praying on this for a couple days. And the reason why I'm looking down, because I want to make sure I get this right. So if you see me looking down, I have just a few bullet points for myself. Why do I think I need to, or I feel convicted to share my racial biases? And I say this because you might know my background. I am a teacher. I'm working in Philadelphia, working in predominantly African American communities. And so I think as a teacher, we promote children sharing the full truth when there are group conflicts. We want to get to the bottom of the real underlying problem. And so there's a part of me the last few days that has been feeling withholding the admission that anybody can find a racial bias within yourself is withholding the truth, partially, not intentionally, but it's not allowing the problem to progress forward in the best way it can, in my opinion. That's why I'm thinking about it. If you disagree, I'm sorry, and I understand why you may disagree, but this is something that I think it's worth me sharing and seeing what the consequences are and what other people think from there. I'd love to hear and talk to you about it after you hear what I have to say. I just think true healing comes from putting down our fronts as human beings, and taking as much personal ownership as possible. In a situation like this, you can take as much ownership as possible by owning up your portion. And one of my portions, we all have portions, is racial biases that I've discovered. Depending on which circle of people in my life you're from, you may or may not experience this more, where I am just exposing myself more to diverse groups of people and noticing things myself, and maybe noticing things from reactions from people or actual legit conversations I may have had over time. And before I share like the actual biases that I've realized within myself, um, I could talk a little bit about my background and my history, a little deeper of where I came from and why I might have these biases. I'd like to leave that for another discussion, but just to flat out just say I don't have a strong reason in my mind right off the bat that says this is why I have discovered this bias. You can go back to so many things of exposure, things I've learned indirectly, explicitly, implicitly through my life. That can be analyzed and talked about. But the main purpose of this is for me just to share what I've noticed about myself. And so here it is. As a teacher, I've been working with different age groups. You might know I'm certified preschool to fourth grade and special ed K to 8. And through this time, I've also done different programs where I'm working with different age groups of kids, mostly middle school age kids, I guess is where I could say that I've noticed it. And even fourth grade, I've noticed it. Working in classroom settings or less formal group settings with kids doing activities that has like somewhat of a diverse group of kids, maybe, or maybe not, maybe more African American kids compared to me being the only white adult in the room. Happens frequently here. And I'm also working with, if you didn't know, in a group home for teenagers right now. Don't want to get into the full detail of that, but just sharing some of my current experiences. Right now, the majority of people I am interacting with are people of color, and often like 10 years older than me. Just kind of seems how the field is here where I am. So again, back to what I'm getting to is I've realized moments in myself where I've been more lenient towards kids that are white than kids of color, and I didn't notice it in the moment. I've noticed it after a situation that I see, or maybe even something a student in the classroom may have said, just pointing out an inconsistency in my classroom management. And I'm not talking about heavy disciplinary action. I'm talking about like minute things, maybe letting one kid get up to go sharpen their pencil versus another. And I'm not proud of that. I'm not proud of me realizing a pattern in this. And we can get even deeper into why that is. And I think at the end of it, it's communication. There's a part of it. I'm not trying to compartmentalize culture in the city, because there's many pockets of culture. Like there's different pockets of white culture in my hometown of Scranton and around the world, so I don't want to ever over compartmentalize. But I think there's ways that we just misunderstand each other, and there's ways where I've been communicated to, or I communicate to a student, that we're just rubbing on, just by different forms of how we communicate, different ways we communicate. And I'm trying to share this in a way that's most helpful right now. It's hard for me to get out the words exactly. This is a deeper conversation, but I think one of the underlying issues of why I've noticed this in myself is communication style, challenges in communication. Again, we can go into deeper levels of bias. And just another one real quick off the bat that I noticed myself in college, working with a lot of international students, or even growing up with teachers that spoke different languages. There was just a part of me that was less patient and less understanding and more critical of people that maybe weren't speaking English at all, or not speaking clearly, not speaking in the way that I process as quickly, and me getting agitated and thinking, they're less intelligent than me, and that's just not true. And I apologize and I confess that's just not a good way to think. And I think we all have to realize that we have initial reactions, and we have to work with those initial reactions. So again, I'm confessing this before a wide group of people and to God, because I just know it's not right to have these thoughts or feelings. These are just a few examples. I'd love to talk to you more about deeper things in your life or my life. But I think we all have to at least realize that our emotions and our previous experiences at some point have likely caused us to not react properly towards a person that's different than us. And causes us to maybe put higher or lesser standards on people because of that. And so, I don't know, I think it would be helpful in pushing this movement forward, whatever movement you're seeing. I'm seeing just the movement of progress. There's so many avenues, so many disagreements. Right now I'm just trying to focus on the betterment of the world. And for those that might also feel compelled, I'd ask you to maybe consider sharing in some kind of similar visual platform, you talking to a camera, just saying, I realize I have these biases and forgive me. Maybe not saying exactly what they are, but just confessing it and saying, I have biases, I need to heal. Will you forgive me? I need to listen and learn from you. So I hope my audience right now is understanding of where my heart is, that I'm doing this to be helpful, and I hope this helps you.